Hey everybody, this is Ray Flick, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Welcome back once again to our weekly recap review of Fear the Walking Dead's 4th season. We're going to be taking a look at the wrong side of where you are now. Believe it or not, this is actually the penultimate episode before the mid-season break. And if you checked out my earlier review, you'll know I wasn't exactly the nicest to the show with the previous episode. I wasn't sure if I was going to end up liking Naomi after this. I thought, the then and the now were moving along so slowly, and I'm looking at they have 2 more episodes to go, and well, let me tell you, this episode put all those concerns to rest. The show got back to a high level of intensity. It gave us some answers. It got things moving forward, and really, really has this, I would say, scratching my head trying to figure out how the then and now are really going to meet up with next week's episode, how much it's going to meet up, or are they just going to leave us with huge cliffhangers over the next couple breaks. So this series, I believe, is supposed to be returning in August, I believe, doing a stretch run leading up to most likely the start of The Walking Dead. But a couple of highlights from the episode just to let you know how it played out. The main storyline had Charlie showing up, of all people, to meet up with Madison asking for help because apparently Mel and Ennis, his brother, got into a fight. Mel got hurt. Charlie was essentially asking for their help. Madison, against all better judgment, brings Mel in to the hospital but keeps Charlie obviously away from him. And Mel, as what we can expect, Mel isn't the bad guy. He's not the main bad guy. He's a guy who, as a vulture, believes in the idea of, no, we're not going to do anything to you. I've just seen it before, so I'm going to wait you out. And we get that. He's a much more complex character than we realize, and not the standard old, mustache-twirling bad guy. We learn that he clearly didn't have a long-term plan with Naomi, because as soon as he wakes up, he gets enough energy to try to take Naomi's knife and put it to her throat. Naomi, of course, realizing how injured he is, just kind of flicks his wound, he's hurt, takes the knife back, everything like that. But he does more, I guess you'd say, damage in the sense that he gets into Naomi's head and says, look, this isn't going to last. There's no way this is going to last. It's especially not going to last because he also lets them aware, because the fight he got into with his brother, Ennis, is about 2 philosophies. As I said, Mel's philosophy is the Vultures, we will wait you out and then we'll pick whatever's left over. We warned you. Ennis's belief is, if you don't listen to us and kind of join us and give us what you got, well, we're going to kind of force the matter a little bit. If you're not going to fall apart and let us just pick you clean, then we're going to make you fall apart, and then we're going to pick what's ever left over. And that's where we get into some big revelation. The white flags with the numbers and everything else, and we saw the way they were, gathering together walkers and everything. Now we know why. Start adding all those numbers up, because that's the number of walkers Ennis has essentially been gathering together, and now he's got truckloads of walkers that he is bringing to the stadium to unleash on the stadium. Like I said, if they're not going to fall apart on their own, he's going to light the match, literally and figuratively, to burn the stadium to the ground. And I say that because the plan is devious of a savior nature, which is not only am I going to unleash walkers onto your stadium, but I'm also going to light the parking lot with fire, so when they walk through, there are going to be flaming walkers to take down your walls. Ingenious, evil, and everything across the board. So again, we now see the converging of where the stadium fall happened. We get a scene with Charlie, Nick, Alicia, and Mel. It's interesting. Madison, after a conversation with Naomi, realizes maybe it's not a good idea for me to have Mel around here. So her idea is essentially, hey, look, take this truck, there's some supplies. I'm sorry you're injured, you're hurt, but you want to leave anyway, so get out. It's interesting that she goes with this decision in spite of Victor, Luciana, Alicia, and Nick having deep reservations about her sending him out. Nick even says, this goes against the whole reason why you built the stadium in the first place. So Charlie, concerned about Mel, hearing him not doing well over a walkie-talkie, essentially guilts Alicia and Nick to go out and find him, and they do. So we're learning if this is a setup, this is a painfully amazing setup, because Mel is hurt bad and there are walkers all around. So they are actually able to bring him back. Fortunately, they're not able to get in because Vultures are there. Tons of walkers, flaming walkers. Walkers are surrounding their car. So what ends up happening, Madison decides to go out to save them and takes along Luciana and takes along Victor also. So now we're seeing the ramifications of how everybody got to be on one side of the fence of the stadium and how this plays out. Now, it gets interesting in the sense that we don't know where Madison is, and that is a mystery that, to be honest with you, there were certain scenes in this episode with her and Nick that just really feed into this idea she didn't make it out alive, and I'm wondering if they're just not waiting for this to be a good send-away for her. Of course, they could also just be playing us along, and there's some big other shock revelation we're not expecting. I don't know, but the Madison question mark is one of the big questions going into the mid-season finale, and there's a part of me that feels like they're going to twist the knife a little bit and not give us an answer. Again, very curious. One of the shocking things from a spoiler standpoint, the reason why we put spoiler warnings is I was not expecting Mel to die. And more importantly, I wasn't expecting them to show Mel getting killed in the sneak preview scene that they set. Because when it took out the ambulance, I thought, okay, he could have survived. Yeah, well, he did. In horrible form that would have kept him alive long anyway, which is okay because Alicia finishes the job by just what looks like off camera. I think with the blade she was using would have just taken off the top part of his head. That's the best way for me to put it. So Alicia clearly is not playing around, and that's what I think is very interesting. One, why is she going after Mel and his group when it was Ennis and that group that was the ones that really unleashed them? Unless she's just lumping them all together, unless there was some plan where the Vultures all got back together. I don't know, but again, more questions leading to mid-season finale, which I'm very curious to see how they straighten those out. We've got Charlie and Morgan exchange, which I thought was excellent, where, Charlie's shocked that Morgan saved her. It's like, after we did with Nick and everything. And Morgan's like, again, this mantra of, we got to stop this at some point. We have to acknowledge what we've done, and we have to move on. We have to be better people. We make these choices that we don't have to make, and we can move on and be better from them. He also had a really great exchange with Althea, who, the one thing I do take away is they promoted we'd be getting a little more of Althea's backstory than we got tonight. But the exchange she had with Morgan, I think, really opens this idea of, like, look, you don't get to hide behind the protection and safety of that camera. With all of this going on, with John Dorie lying wounded, and again, John Dorie was wounded through all this. He's not dead. He just really took a major backseat for a guy who has a gaping wound. But, side note. But this idea that Althea has got to be more involved, and Morgan convinces her to, which is rolling in with the SWAT truck as the cavalry got on board Morgan, Charlie, Naomi, John, and whipped out the SWAT guns just to make sure Alicia understood, like, hey, you got no problem, I got no problem. But if it comes to guns, I'm going to win this fight every time, and I'm going to take all of you out. Again, another interesting situation, because now we have the SWAT truck going to the stadium. We have Luciana, Alicia, and Strand, who I'm assuming are still good guys. I can understand why they're a little strung out, but they're also really coming across like the bad guys in the way they're going after Althea, Morgan, and especially with John Dorie, and considering his condition, his situation. So that's where I said it's got you guessing. It's very intense. I don't know where this is all going to lead, but again, the killing of Mel really surprised me. I was not expecting that at all. Because I thought Kevin Zegers had been doing a great job. I've joked about the My Chemical Romance stuff, but I thought he's done a fantastic job on the show. And the last thing that I want to say is I just thought visually the scene where the SWAT truck makes its way into the stadium and the smoke clears and we see nothing but charred walkers walking around the stadium, we realize that's how the stadium fell. Now, what led up to it, how we're connecting the dots, and how Althea is going to get to any kind of infirmary to be able to get medicine and supplies for John Dorie, I am curious to see, because it looks like the mid-season finale, No One's Gone, is going to be pretty intense next week. But all in all, I got to say, The Wrong Side of Where You Are was a really, really great return to form after a 2-week break. I couldn't ask for a better job on it. I think I'm really liking where they have set the series to go into that mid-season break for its 4th season. Thank you guys for joining me again. Once again, my name is Ray Flick, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Make sure you check out bleedingcool.com for all of our coverage of all things across the pop culture landscape. And I will see you guys on the inner tubes. Have a great week.